Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about one of the craziest, most paradoxical, but also most powerful practices we can use for overcoming screen addiction, and that is screen binging. So let me give you a little bit of context for this practice. There's this whole idea out there that we've all heard of. If you catch your kids smoking, for example, and you force them to smoke the entire pack of cigarettes, or maybe even smoke 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes, they'll never smoke again. And the idea behind that is that you've turned this craving your child had into overindulgence, which as a result leads to revulsion and not wanting to touch the thing again. This is an insight that actually goes way back in the tantric tradition of Buddhism, where they call this feast practice. So what they would do is with things like alcohol and decadent eating and sex, instead of restrain themselves, which is our typical practice, they would engage in feast practice. They would intentionally overindulge in a conscious way, and they found that this was one of the most powerful ways to essentially burn away the destructive roots of these kinds of desires. I think we can apply this very same feast practice, overindulgence practice, to our screens, which for me anyway, and for many of us, is our primary source of craving these days. So how do we do this practice? Well, I piloted this practice, and I write about this in my book, Open, Living with an Expansive Mind in a Distracted World, where I basically reserved 3 days and spent 3 days all day, every single day, just allowing myself to fully indulge in digital distraction. So this isn't my ordinary relationship to screens. Usually, I try to restrict my screen time. I try to not be on my screens. But for 3 days, it was like I went into this buffet of Screenland and just sampled everything and consumed anything I could get my hands on, whether that was TikTok or Instagram or news or email or anything you can imagine, right? And what I found through this practice was, one, it completely destroyed my sleep, which was kind of interesting. Every night I would wake up at about 2:40 a.m. just lit up. No way I could sleep for the rest of the night. But the most important thing I discovered is that by overindulging in my screens, I started to see the thing that keeps driving all of us to our screens all day, every day. And that thing is novelty. It's this experience of something new. You know, you pick up your phone, you go through the lock screen, and why are you driven to go to your text, to go to your email, to go to Instagram? It's because there's something new there. There's a new text message, a new set of emails, a fresh feed on Instagram or TikTok. And so novelty is the thing that drives us. But when we engage in intentional screen binging, something really interesting happens. We destroy the superpower of our devices because we reach a certain point where it feels like we've seen everything there is to see. There is no more novelty left in Screenland. And that for me was one of the most powerful ways to start to overcome my addiction to my devices. Because after I did this experiment, I remember waking up and thinking this is where I usually grab my phone and go to the bathroom. And for the first time in about 10 years, that desire to look at something new on my phone just fell completely flat. It wasn't even there. So obviously, you live a busy life. You probably can't spend 3 days, all day, every day screen binging. How can you apply this concept of overindulgence and screen binging to your own relationship to your phone? Well, one way you could do this is to just do a single day where even though you're at work or you're doing other things, you allow yourself to intentionally overindulge in your devices. You can also do 1 day of screen binging and pair that with a day of screen fasting. So you spend 1 day just binging on a buffet of mind snacks. You spend the next day with your device locked away or with your device on airplane mode where you barely touch it at all. Either way, you are experiencing something different from your ordinary set of habits around your devices. And that's really the key to starting to take that step back and reevaluate your relationship to your device. So that's how I think you can put screen binging into action. Try it for a day. If that's too much, you can even just try it for a few hours. But the key here is to stay conscious of what's happening in your mind and body as you go beyond mere craving into the zone of overindulgence, and to use that experience of revulsion, of too much, to help you dissolve your addiction to your screens. So let me know how that goes in the comments section. And if you're interested in more of these tips around mindfulness, screen addiction, etc., be sure to subscribe to the channel.